The noose tightened around Danny Morrison's neck as Bumpy Johnson whispered, "This is for Thomas." But this was just the beginning. In 7 days, 12 men would pay the ultimate price for touching Harlem's print. Let me take you back to September 15, 1946. Marcus Garvey Park, 6:23 a.m. on a Sunday morning that would change everything. Mrs. Dorothy Williams was walking her terrier when she saw something hanging from the old oak tree. At first, she thought someone had left laundry in the branches. Then she got closer, and her screams shattered the morning quiet. Detective Robert Walsh arrived 24 minutes later. What he saw made his 20 years on the force feel meaningless. A young black man, 19 years old, hanging 3 feet off the ground. His Columbia University sweatshirt was torn, one shoe missing, rope burns on his hands, showing he'd fought till the end. The note pinned to his chest read, "Coloreds know your place." When Walsh pulled out the wallet with trembling hands and saw the name Thomas Johnson, his blood went cold. Not Johnson. Please God, not that Johnson. His partner, Detective Sullivan, walked up. "Who is he?" "Thomas Johnson," Walsh whispered. "We need to notify his family." "And his uncle?" "Ellsworth, Bumpy Johnson." Both detectives understood immediately what storm was coming. Thomas Johnson was everything the KKK hated. Brilliant, educated, the first in his family to attend Columbia University. He wanted to be a civil rights lawyer, believing he could fight injustice in courtrooms instead of street. Every Sunday at 6 a.m., he'd walk through Marcus Garvey Park to Abyssinian Baptist Church. Same route, same time. Someone had been watching. The KKK wasn't just a Southern problem in 1946. Secret cells operated in northern cities. In Harlem, 15 men met every other Friday in a warehouse on East 98th Street. They were mechanics, store clerks, factory workers with regular jobs and white hoods for nighttime terror. On September 13th, they drew straw. 5 men would deliver a message to Harlem's uppity Negro: Danny Morrison, Rick Sullivan, Lou Bennett, Frank Dorsey, and Charlie Roth. They chose Thomas because he represented everything they feared: black excellence, education, success. On that Sunday morning, they waited in the shadows as Thomas entered the park carrying his Bible. 5 grown men tackled one teenager. Thomas was small, 5'7", and maybe 140 pounds, but he fought with everything he had. His glasses flew off, his Bible fell into the grass. Danny Morrison had practiced tying nooses at their meeting. "Please, I didn't do anything," Thomas cried. Charlie Ross hesitated for just a moment, seeing what they were really doing: murdering someone's child. But Danny threw the rope over the oak branch. It took 4 minutes. 4 minutes of Thomas struggling, suffocating, dying slowly while 5 cowards watched. When he finally stopped moving, they pinned their message to his chest and walked away, confident nothing would happen, that the police would look the other way, that Thomas Johnson was just another dead black boy in a city full of them. They had no idea what they'd just unleashed. At 7:12 a.m., Bumpy Johnson's phone rang. Illinois Gordon's voice was shaking. "Boss, is Thomas, Ruth's boy. They found him in Marcus Garvey Park. He's gone." Bumpy couldn't respond. The phone felt impossibly heavy. "Boss, how?" Bumpy's voice was flat, emotionless. "They're saying suicide." "But boss, there was a note, KKK." Bumpy hung up without another word. For 10 minutes, he sat completely still in his office, memories flooding back, teaching Thomas chess when he was 8, watching him graduate high school, driving him to Columbia on his first day. The pride in Ruth's eyes as her son, the first in their family, walked onto that university campus. Finally, Bumpy stood and put on his coat. "I'm going to Ruth." His sister lived 4 blocks away. When Bumpy arrived, Ruth was surrounded by neighbors trying to comfort her. But comfort doesn't work when your only child has been lynched. "They took my baby," Ruth said, her eyes destroyed. Bumpy sat next to her, taking her hand. "I know. The police said suicide," said Thomas, hung himself. "My boy would never." "It wasn't suicide." "Then what?" "It was murder. 5 men. KKK." Ruth's body shook with sobs. As Bumpy held his sister, he felt something he hadn't experienced in 20 years of running Harlem's underworld: helplessness. His nephew was dead, and no amount of power, money, or influence could bring him back. But there was something he could do. "I'm going to handle this," Bumpy said quietly. "Handle what?" "The men who did this." Ruth looked at him. "Will it bring Thomas back?" "No." "Then what's the point?" "The point is justice. Making sure no other mother in Harlem has to bury her son because some men in hoods thought they could terrorize us." Ruth was quiet for a long moment. "Then do what you have to do. But Bumpy, make them understand. Make them feel what I'm feeling." "I will, I promise you, sister, they'll understand." At 9 a.m., Bumpy stood under the oak tree in Marcus Garvey Park. The police had removed Thomas's body, but they'd missed things. 5 cigarette butts on the ground, different brands, smoked hours before, 5 different shoe prints in the dirt, work boots, probably factory workers, a button torn off during the struggle, and something else, a matchbook from Ollie's Tavern on East 96th Street, outside Harlem in a white neighborhood. neighborhood. Bumpy took everything. Then he found Curtis, an elderly homeless man who slept on a bench most nights. The kind of person people looked through, invisible. Curtis. Bumpy sat down next to him. Curtis tensed. Mr. Johnson, I don't want no trouble. You won't get trouble. You'll get money and protection. Just tell me what you saw this morning. Curtis glanced around nervously. 5 white men. They came around 5:30, before sunrise. Sat by that tree smoking, waiting. I heard them talking, laughing about teaching some uppity Columbia Negro a lesson. Did you hear names? Just one, the tall one with dark hair. Others called him Danny. Danny what? Didn't catch a last name, but I heard where they were going after. Ollie's Tavern. Said they always celebrated there after their work. Bumpy handed Curtis $200. You never saw anything. You weren't here. Understand? Curtis nodded, the money disappearing into his coat. Bumpy returned to his office and called Joey O'Brien, a bartender who owed him favor. Allie's Tavern. There's a group that meets there. White men. Probably came in early this morning celebrating. I need names. 3 hours later, Joey called back. Got him. 5 guys came in around 7:30 a.m. Drunk already. Loud. Bragging about taking care of business in Harlem. Names: Danny Morrison, Rick Sullivan, Lou Bennett, Frank Dorsey, and Charlie Ross. They regulars? Yeah. Come in every other Friday night. Meet in the back room with about 10 other guys. Real secretive. My boss says there's some kind of club. What kind of club? Joey's voice dropped. The kind that wears hood, if you know what I mean. By 8 p.m. on day 2, Bumpy had complete files on all 5 men. Where they lived, where they worked, their families, their routines, everything. He called his 4 most trusted men: Illinois Gordon, Willie Lee Jackson, Marcus Cole, and James Quick. 5 names, Bumpy said quietly. They lynched Thomas. Now they pay. 7 days, 5 men. Each one understands what they took from my sister, what they took from Harlem. He handed out assignments, surveillance, equipment, planning. When this is over, we're burning down their whole operation. Every man in that KKK cell disappeared. They think they can bring Southern terror to Harlem. We're going to teach them that Harlem doesn't scare. The 4 men nodded. They'd known Thomas, watched him grow up. This wasn't just business. This was family. One more thing, Bumpy said. Document everything. Photographs, evidence. I want proof of what they did, so if anyone asks later, we can show them exactly why these men had to pay. Danny Morrison worked at an auto repair shop in the Bronx. Lived alone in a small house with a garage. On September 17th at 8 p.m., Danny was working on his car when his world ended. 3 men entered through the side door. Danny didn't recognize them. Didn't have time to react. They moved like professionals. Silent. Efficient. One hand over his mouth, the other arm twisted behind his back. Danny was strong. Worked with his hands. Lifted engines daily. But these men knew what they were doing. They bound his hands with rope, the same type Danny had used on Thomas. Then Willie Lee threw another rope over the garage's ceiling beam. Danny's eyes went wide. He understood. You know what you did, Willie said, his face stone cold. You know why we're here. They put the noose around Danny's neck and lifted him slowly. Let him feel the rope tightening. Let him kick and struggle and feel the panic of suffocating. After 30 seconds, they lowered him, let him breathe. Danny gasped, cried, thought maybe they'd show mercy. They lifted him again. 3 times they did this, pulling him up, letting him suffocate, dropping him just before he'd pass out, teaching him what Thomas had felt in those final 4 minutes. On the 4th time, they left him hanging. When Danny's wife found him at 6 p.m. the next day, there was a note pinned to his chest. 1 down, 4 to go. You knew your place. Now you're in it. Harlem remembers Thomas Johnson. You helped kill Thomas Johnson. Lou ran, sprinted through the woods, off the trail, deep into the wilderness. For 3 days, Lou wandered those woods. Quick and Marcus took turns following at a distance, making sounds, leaving signs that someone was watching, never letting Lou rest, never letting him feel safe. Every time Lou tried to sleep, he'd hear the voice. Every time he found a stream, he'd see movement in the shadows. Every time he thought he was alone, he'd hear footsteps. On the 3rd day, Lou was broken, delirious, crying, begging trees for forgiveness, talking to Thomas Johnson's ghost. Search parties found him on September 22nd, wandering in circles, dehydrated, traumatized beyond description. Doctors couldn't explain it. No injuries beyond dehydration, no drugs in his system, just psychological trauma so complete that Lou would spend the next year in a psychiatric facility, still hearing voices in his dream. In his hand was a note. 3 down, 2 to go. You hunted a boy like an animal. Now you know what it feels like to be prey. The woods remember Thomas. Frank Dorsey was terrified. 3 of his friends destroyed in 5 days. He moved his family to a hotel, figuring they'd be safer away from home. But Illinois Gordon had been watching Frank for 6 days, knew exactly where he'd moved, knew his routine, knew when the hotel room would be empty. On September 20th at 2 a.m., Frank's house caught fire. Fire trucks arrived within minutes, but the house was already fully engulfed. Gasoline had been poured around the foundation. Windows windows broken to feed oxygen to the flame. By the time firefighters controlled it, there was nothing left. Everything Frank owned, every photograph, every memory, his children's toys, his wife's jewelry, gone. The fire chief found Frank at the hotel. "Mr. Dorsey, I'm sorry. Your house is a total loss. And sir, this was arson. Professional arson." Frank just nodded. He'd known it was coming. On the mailbox of his burned house, they found a note. "4 down, 1 to go. You destroyed a family's future. Now you understand law. 1 more left." Charlie Ross was the only one left. He'd watched 4 friends destroyed in 6 days, and he knew, absolutely knew, that tonight was his turn. At 5:30 a.m. on September 21st, Charlie made a decision. He'd go to the police, confess everything, go to prison. Anywhere was safer than the street. He got in his car, started driving to the 28th precinct. He didn't notice the car following him. Didn't notice when it boxed him in on a quiet street 3 blocks from the station. Illinois Gordon stepped out, walked to Charlie's window, knocked. Charlie looked up, saw Gordon's face, understood immediately. "Get out of the car, Charlie. Please, I'm going to turn myself in. I'll confess." "Get out of the car." Charlie got out, his legs shaking. "You were going to run," Illinois said, "like a coward." "I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to do it. Danny made us." "Danny's dead. I know. Please, let me go. I'll leave New York. You'll never see me again." Illinois pulled out a photograph. Thomas Johnson smiling, wearing his Columbia sweatshirt. His name was Thomas. He was 19 years old. He wanted to be a lawyer. And you put a rope around his neck and pulled. Charlie was crying. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't bring him back." Illinois leaned closer. "Here's what's going to happen. You're not going to prison. You're not running to California. You're going to the warehouse on 98th Street. "What? No, I can't." "You can and you will, because you're going to deliver a message to your KKK friend. Tonight at 9 p.m., all 15 of you are going to meet at that warehouse, and you're going to vote. Disband and leave New York, or stay and face what Danny, Rick, Lou, and Frank face. They'll never leave. Some of them will want to fight. I know. And that's fine, because if they vote to stay, we burn that warehouse down with all of you inside. And the NYPD will call it an accident, just like they called Thomas's lynching a suicide." Illinois put the photograph back in his pocket. "You have a choice, Charlie. Convince your people to disband or die with them. Those are your only options." At 9 p.m. on September 21st, 15 men gathered in the warehouse on East 98th Street, the full KKK cell. Charlie told them everything. Danny hanging in his garage, Rick burning, Lou going insane, Frank's house reduced to ash. "And they gave us an ultimatum," Charlie said, his voice shaking. "Disband tonight, leave New York, or they burn this warehouse down with us inside." Some men laughed. "One colored gangster threatening 15 of us? He's bluffing." Others weren't sure. 5 of our men are destroyed in 6 days. Maybe we should." "Should what? Run? We're the KKK. We don't back down." The argument escalated, voices rising. Finally, they voted. 10 voted to stay. 5 voted to disband. The 5 who voted to leave, including Charlie, walked out immediately. "You're making a mistake," Charlie said at the door. "Let them come," one of the remaining men said. "We'll be ready." Charlie left, got in his car, drove straight to the bus station. Outside the warehouse, hidden in shadows across the street, Bumpy Johnson and his 4 men watched the 5 leave. 15 went in, 5 came out, Illinois said. 10 stayed. Bumpy nodded, then 10 burned. At 11:45 p.m., the attack began. Willie Lee and Quick Jackson moved to opposite sides of the warehouse, each carrying 3 Molotov cocktails. Marcus Cole positioned himself at the back exit. Illinois took the front. Bumpy stood across the street, watching. At 11:47 p.m., the first Molotov went through a window, then another and another. 6 bottles of gasoline and fire crashed into the warehouse. The building erupted in flame. Men inside started screaming, running for exits. The front door was chained from outside. Illinois had locked it while they were arguing. The back door opened. 3 men ran out. Marcus Cole let them run. They were burned, traumatized, broken. That was enough. 7 men died in that fire, trapped inside, burned alive. The fire department's official report: accidental fire, likely cause improper storage of flammable material. The NYPD's investigation closed within 48 hours. No suspects, no charges. By September 23rd, the KKK cell in Harlem was destroyed. 5 men had participated in Thomas Johnson's lynching. Danny Morrison, dead, hanged in his garage. Rick Sullivan, permanently disfigured, 60% burns, life destroyed. Lou Bennett, psychiatric hospital, mind broken. Frank Dorsey, homeless, everything he owned burned. Charlie Ross fled to California, never returned. 10 more men who'd voted to stay and fight, 7 dead in the warehouse fire. 3 escaped with severe burns and trauma. The remaining KKK members in New York, the ones who hadn't been at that warehouse, disbanded immediately, burned their robes, destroyed their records, disappeared into normal life. The message had been received. Harlem protects its own. Touch Harlem's children, and the cost is everything. Over 3,000 people attended Thomas Johnson's funeral at Abyssinian Baptist Church. The casket was closed. Ruth had insisted she wanted people to remember remembered Thomas alive, smiling, full of promise. Bumpy stood next to his sister throughout the service, silent. His face showed nothing, but his eyes carried weight that nobody else could see. As the casket was lowered into the ground, Bumpy placed something on top. A photograph of Thomas in his Columbia sweatshirt holding a law book, smiling. And 5 other photographs: Danny Morrison hanging, Rick Sullivan's burned face, Lou Bennett being carried from the woods, Frank Dorsey's destroyed house, the warehouse burning. Underneath a note: Thomas, they paid. All of them. Every man who touched you. Every man who supported them. Harlem delivered justice. Rest easy, nephew. Your mother is safe. Your neighborhood is safe. Nobody will do this again. I promise. Uncle Bumpy? Ruth saw the photographs, put her hand on Bumpy's arm. Is it over? It's over. Did they understand? Did they feel what I felt? Bumpy looked at his sister. Every single one of them understands loss now. Understands pain. Understands what it feels like to have everything taken away. Ruth nodded. Good. She placed a flower on the casket. My baby wanted to be a lawyer. Wanted to fight injustice in courtroom. I know. But the courtrooms failed him. The police failed him. The system failed him. I know. Ruth looked at Bumpy. So you became his justice. Yes, thank you. They stood together as the casket disappeared into the earth, as 3,000 people from Harlem said goodbye to the lawyer they would never have, the future that had been stolen. In 1963, 17 years later, a reporter asked Bumpy Johnson about Thomas, about September 1946. Mr. Johnson, rumors have persisted for years that you were responsible for the death and attacks on 12 men in September 1946. Men allegedly connected to your nephew's death. Would you care to comment? Bumpy was 61 years old, still sharp, still dangerous, but tired in ways that youth never understand. My nephew wanted to be a lawyer, wanted to fight injustice through the legal system. He believed in courtrooms, in judges, in the law. And you? I believed in the law too, until the law called my nephew's lynching a suicide, until the police filed it away and did nothing, until the system that Thomas believed in failed him completely. So you took justice into your own hands? I didn't take anything. Justice was owed. The courts wouldn't deliver it, so it came from somewhere else. But doesn't that make you just as who? Bumpy's voice was sharp now. As the men who lynched a 19-year-old for being black and educated? As the police who covered it up? As a system that's been failing black families since this country was founded? The reporter was quiet. You want to know if I regret it? Bumpy continued. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that in 1946, 1 year after we fought a war against fascism overseas, we still had to fight terrorism here at home. I regret that my nephew died believing the system would protect him.